in my mind that she
Oh, right.
take care of anything. It's solely on my shoulders and my mind.
All right. I'm waiting on other people. What are the things? What do you fear the most? What are your fears?
Well, for me, I think what I'm actually scared of now is not being able to fulfill purpose.
Lack of your purpose?
Yeah, not being able, like I see that is huge, and I kind of ask myself, can I really do this? So I'm kind of scared that uh, will I actually really fulfill purpose like to the later?
Okay. The first thing is, do you know your purpose?
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
At least you need to know
But
if you even know your purpose, so we'll know what you're really scared of.
I know my purpose. I know I'm actually called to minister and be a help to people, always be there. I know I'm actually called
Okay,
to
sorry.
minister.
Okay, please continue. I'm sorry.
I know I'm actually called to minister and or be there to help, give a helping hand to people who need it, people who are broken, like really help them come out of their brokenness and find fulfillment in life. And what I'm actually scared about now is because I kind of most times find myself in that same state. So I ask myself, how are you sure you can actually do this when you still need that? You still look out and need the shoulder to lean on. So I think that's
How are you supposed to do that when you also, you probably need a helping hand? So how are
yeah,
you supposed to help somebody? Okay. Yeah, before we started off this conference, I asked, I was trying to ask my daughter, I asked her, what are you afraid of? And the first thing she actually said was abandoned. I'm afraid of being abandoned. So I discovered that she knows, but a lot of people don't really know what they're afraid of. So I want to put in another form. What upsets you the most in a relationship? What upsets you the most?
for me, it's people not being there when I really need them to be there because I feel I I try to always be there, and when I'm not getting it back, I get upset.
Okay. So how do we explain that? When you don't find people helping you. Okay, so in respect to just one person, maybe you're friends with somebody, you feel the same way if the person is not there for you when you want them to be there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So why do you get upset?
Well, honestly, I really don't know. I just find myself getting upset before I kind of put a stop to it. So it's like taking me on a way.
Okay,
And when
so
I get to pause and ask myself, why are you actually upset? And there's no honest response to that. And I tell myself that I actually don't have to get upset. So I think there's a hidden something that is not fitting. I still need to
there's a
find the
hidden-
why.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. What about other people? What is it that upsets you the most in a relationship? What gets you upset? Like I asked my daughter said, I hate it when I'm trying to get your attention and you tell me you're busy. So I asked why. What if I was really busy? She said, yeah, I know you're busy, but it feels like I'm being ignored. And that is very frustrating to me. What is it? Because the only reason we have problems with people is because there is something that upsets us. We'll find out what that thing is or where it's coming from. But I want you to be self-aware. What is it that really gets you really mad? What gets you upset? If anyone does that to you, you're really very upset. What are the things?
Well, for me, I know in my relationship with my wife, we just made 1 year on August 25th. And when I feel like she is accusing me of something, and I know it's not true, but it seems accusatory. It really just irks me because it's like, I know that you don't know, or you're just assuming, or you're, as they say, throwing a rock in the dark. But, I don't like to be accused by anybody of doing something I know I didn't do. So with me and my relationships, that really is a big one for me, that I've had to learn to have to control myself so that I don't respond out of anger, because I understand that, that's just who she is and she doesn't mean anything by it, but it's something that, we have to work on together so that she understands. That's one of my, I guess you could say, pet peeves. And I also don't like it when I feel like my wife, my spouse, since we're just talking about in our relationships, when she doesn't take accountability, I don't want a person not to take accountability for their actions.
Okay. So when people don't take accountability for their actions and when you're accused. All right. So what we're talking about actually is we're trying to connect relationship and we're trying to tie it with mental health. And so we can get motivated to be able to stay in healthy relationships. Now, there are different types of relationships. We have the independent relationship whereby, everybody does his own thing. And there's probably somebody there that has, because we all have different attachment styles. There's some people who are not into people, do your thing and I do my thing and everybody is fine. And so there is no interdependence in that kind of relationship. That relationship is not healthy. There's also a relationship where everybody is kind of enmeshed. Everybody's into everybody's business. And so people don't have their own identity in that relationship. Sometimes when you see a family that are very enmeshed, when you ask one person a question, what another person answers for the other person. So they just feel we can get into each other's space because we're very close. Usually such people or such individuals from that kind of relationships or that family, they have problem with boundaries. And so when they find themselves having a relationship, they want to be that close. The expectations, it's always about, it's me or no other person. You have to always be with me. And they find themselves being codependent on other people. But a very healthy relationship is an interdependent relationship where you can maintain your own individuality and still have a bond with people. You can be your own person. You're not trying to change the other person. The other person is not trying to change you. You respect one another for who you are. You acknowledge each other's strength and weaknesses. You don't speak down on the other person's weakness. That's a very healthy relationship. In that relationship, you don't find the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in that kind of relationship. So before I talk about the four horsemen of apocalypse, I don't know if any of us have heard about the four horsemen by John Gottman. Those are criticism, defensiveness, contemptuousness, and stonewalling. What this just means is criticism is, I like to just break it down to a layman. When you feel critiqued or judged, is whenever a situation occurs and it's sounding like you are the one to blame. Or if any good you've been doing is not acknowledged, and a word such as always, or a word such as never appears in a conversation, like somebody says to you, this is what you always do, you'll be triggered. Or somebody says, you never do this, you're going to be triggered. I like to add one more thing. Whenever a complaint is coming and you hear you did this, I am doing this because you did this. The moment you hear you did something, the next automatic response is for you to defend yourself. Even if I've done something one time, if I've done one good thing one time, I still want you to acknowledge that I don't always do what you're saying. And if maybe this is the first time I'm misjiving, I don't want you to also tell me, oh, I never do so and so and so. One of the major issues between parents and children is when children, say things like, oh, you never buy me this, or you never do that. It also those kind of things also happen in relationships. When you hear things like, you don't like cleaning the kitchen, or those that usually accuse their wives of, oh, you don't like being intimate, even though you were intimate last week. So the next thing you're going to hear is a defensive speech, body language, tone, whatsoever. The person feels there's a need to defend their honor. And then you hear things like, what about you? Or don't ever say that again. So you don't get the kind of response you would have wanted to get. Now, the third part is contemptuousness, whereby you've been doing this, accusation or criticism or judgments, and then the defensiveness, you've been going back and forth. And all of a sudden, it gets to a point where you both are tired of going through that cycle. And then you start doing things like eye rolling, or you've started again, or you put up this body language that says, I am not interested in this conversation. And then the other person really gets hurt because you've not even started talking, and you just get that content and you don't know what to do. And the fourth level is when you now stonewall, or you shut down. You bring up your wall. Usually when you're coming from a family or a background where there is so much of criticism and there's so much of defensiveness, some of us get into the habits of constantly defending ourselves. The moment somebody says something, even before they accuse you, you kind of think you're being accused and you feel a need to defend yourself. What I wanted to really talk about while I'm bringing the four horsemen of apocalypse is fear and a need for safety in a relationship. We all need to feel safe in any relationship at all, romantic relationship, or even if it's just friendship. We all need that safety. We all want to be in a relationship where we know our interest is being protected. and when we know that we're being appreciated, and when we are not driven to the wall. Because if we are driven to the wall, we are going to try to survive. And how do we survive? We either fight, because whenever we're driven to the wall, we don't feel safe, and there is some kind of fear in that. It makes you anxious. There are certain people that you don't want to even start a conversation with. How many of us have heard something like, we need to talk? Is it? Has anybody told you we need to talk? If you're there, you can just unmute. We need to talk. Have you heard that before?
Every day.
Yes.
What's the first thing? What's your first reaction when you hear we need to talk?
Apprehensiveness, like about what?
About what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're suddenly thinking, what did I do? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. The we need to talk kind of thing, if you're not in a safe relationship, if it's a safe relationship, when you hear we need to talk, you would just say, oh, I think so, or something like that. But if you're not feeling safe in a relationship whereby you're always thinking you're being policed, or you never make sense, or the other person is a bit dismissive,
Yes.
you're always going to think, what again? What have I done? You get kind of anxious. Okay, how many of you have heard, we will talk later? You say, no, let's say it now. They tell you, no, not now. We'll talk later. And how did you feel? Has anybody been told we need to talk later?
Hello, this is Jennifer.
All right.
Nice to see you. Not necessarily that we need to talk later, but like they just shut down and not talk at all.
Oh, wow. Okay. And how do you feel in that kind of situation?
I feel angry, well, more so lonely, but like I think the first emotion is anger.
Okay. Why do you
But
think
then,
you're angry?
say that again?
Why anger?
Because I feel like we have a problem, but the other person doesn't want to discuss it because I guess they're stonewalling me. And I feel like stonewalling is not going to help us. So it's like, you don't want to help our situation. So I'm getting angry.
All right. Okay. So you are the one that wants to talk now.
Yes.
Okay. And the other person is like, no. Why do you think, do you know that people try to run away because they don't feel safe?
Yes, of course. I think, and also I'm probably upset and I'm yelling and, or not even yelling, but talking really aggressively.
I can imagine. Yeah. All these come from, it's everybody is trying to feel safe in their relationship. Now, sometimes you want to talk because you're thinking something is going on with this relationship. We need to quickly do something about it. You want to salvage it. Why? Because there is some fear in there, which we don't have time to get into, because the fear we feel in relationship is coming from, past experiences, if not childhood experiences. It's because you know that, oh my God, I can't afford to lose this relationship. And you're already scared of being left alone or being abandoned. And so you want to salvage it as quickly as possible. And by so doing, you start acting very, very anxious. You want to get the thing. And the more you do that, the worse the relationship becomes. So even though you want something, you start getting the reverse of your desire. I want every one of us to just begin to think about the things we do simply because we don't want to lose something because of our fear. We all have some kind of fear, every one of us. And our fear, we respond to our fear in with the usual responses to fear. We're either fighting or freezing or fleeing. Those that are fighting, when people are very angry and they seem very aggressive, some people think they're just aggressive. No, they're not aggressive. What's going on is you're trying to defend yourself. You're in a survival mode. And that's why it looks like you're fighting, you're aggressive, you want to say something, and the other person thinks, oh my God, you're too sensitive. You're not sensitive. There is something under the anger, the yelling, the shouts. It's either you're so sad, you're so frustrated, you're fearing that you're going to be left alone, and you're trying to make sure that doesn't happen. So you go into the fight mode. Why am I saying this? So that when next you find yourself fighting someone or someone fighting you, instead of saying things like, why are you so angry? Or why are you yelling? You quickly tell yourself, there is something under this anger. Why is this person angry? Why are they scared? What is the fear? That this anger is, camouflaging, because the anger is a camouflage of a fear of something. So it will help you to step back to check what is going on. Why is this person scared? Why is this person angry? So that you're able to respond in a different way than you've ever responded before. Now, some people do not fight. Some people just freeze. They don't say nothing. They just there staring at you. And sometimes people think those people are stupid. They're not stupid. They're scared. And they don't know what else to do with it. So they just stay there. They're calm. Don't think nothing is going through their mind. They just don't know what to do. Such people will take action contrary to what you saw them display. Because if someone is quiet while you're doing whatever you're doing, sometimes you may think the person is listening, but the person may all just be freezing. Has anybody ever experienced, having a conversation with somebody that you thought it went well and the person disappeared on you? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody you were talking, you thought it went well, said, let's sort this thing out once and for all. And the person was just telling you, okay, sorry, I'm sorry. But after that conversation, the person disappeared. Have you ever been in that kind of relationship? Nobody? I have. Okay. You can unmute yourself. Can you tell us what happened? Pastor Mrs. Kalu. Oh, okay. In a business meeting? All right. Some people are they just freeze. They just freeze because they don't know what to do, and so they just freeze. That is their own reaction. That is their reaction to to noise, because there are certain people that cannot respond well to yelling. So if your way of responding to issues is kind of yelling or saying something that can make somebody else run away. The fact that they're not talking does not mean you're not scaring them. So I'm saying this so you can look out for it. If you're the one that also freezes, I want you to be able to look at, check your reaction. If you're someone that when someone is talking to you, all the answers you need to give them disappears until they leave. And then when they leave, you start thinking about, I should have said, why didn't I say it? What happened to you is you froze because you were not feeling safe in that relationship. The thought response is flight. There are a lot of people who will just run. They don't, and those are people you will say, you don't like discussing things. You like to run away. Whenever it comes to us saying something that is very serious, that is when you start doing something else, then you want to escape. Why do you do that? Is there anyone that has experienced that kind of thing? When the matter becomes very serious, the other person takes off, runs away.
Yes.
The person is not running away because they're avoidant, they're scared. Do you understand why the person should be, the person will be scared?
Not scared, but overwhelmed.
They're overwhelmed,
Yeah.
And so their defense, their survival instinct says they should run, right? That it should just escape. I can't be in this environment because I don't know what to do with it. And so they just take off. So I like to kind of break it down and explain it this way. The people that have like traumatic experience of rape, there's some people that blame themselves because they felt they could have done something about it. I could have just escaped or something. Now, what happened is they froze. So they couldn't run. So they just stayed there and they went through the experience. Some will fight with their lives. They're not even thinking about it. They are fighting not because they are stronger, but that is the way they respond to threats. And some people will just start running, even though they don't even know what they're running from. And that kind of thing is what we carry into relationships, especially when we don't feel safe. Why did I pick this topic? Somebody asked me once and said, what does it mean to feel safe in a relationship? What does it mean to feel safe? And I want to throw that question out to you. What is safety like to you in your relationship? How do you feel safe?
Is anybody? All right, go ahead.
How? With Jennifer?
Oh, I thought somebody was going, but I feel safe when I feel loved, respected. Actually, some of the things that I say actually matter. I can trust all those things.
Okay. Have you always felt that way?
No, I think actually when you were younger, like stuff didn't. You would think that certain things matter, but like being married, you start to learn how some of these things are important to me. So it took time. It evolved.
That's true. Yeah. Paul, what makes you feel safe in a relationship?
I don't know if I should answer right now. She's within earshot.
Okay, so the safety I'm talking about is whenever, what makes you say whatever you want to say without thinking you're going to be crucified for what you've said?
Right. Consistency. Like, so if I can be open with you, and no matter what the topic is, I know that the respond isn't going to be an immediate lashing out or,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, criticism or something, then I'm comfortable enough to know that, no, I mean, it's just like um Pavlov's salivating dog type response, you know. So if, you know, and sometimes it takes time, you know, and when you and your spouse learn each other, but if over a period of time I see more often than not, you know, with consistency, I can bring you something, even if it's a hurtful topic or something of that nature. It's not going to be an immediate response to anger or ridicule, you know, because that's what's going to make me recluse and not one. I just told my wife the other day, I was like, you know, that's why I'm gonna stop talking to you. I'm gonna stop telling you stuff because, you know, just in a casual conversation, talking to her about taking my daughter to school, you know, a conversation me and her were having, she stopped me mid sentence. And was like, you shouldn't tell her that. That's not true. Speak that over your own life. Because, you know, my daughter, she's 5, but she has a lot of questions about life and death lately and how long are we going to live? And I was like, well, you know, you got about another 80, 90 years. And she's like, well, what about my sister? What about you? I'm like, well, hopefully I got about another 40 or 50. And my wife's like, don't be saying that. We all got 100+ years. I said, we ain't Moses and stuff. Come on, let's be realistic. Well, you don't know the time and the day, you know, so that made me just like, you know what? I shouldn't even said nothing, you know, because that's my reality. I don't know anybody that's lived to be over 100. Not saying that it can't happen. Not saying I'm trying to speak anything over our lives of saying we're gonna depart early, but you know, that was just my response to her. But she saw it differently, and that made me kind of like, ooh, you know what? I should have saw this coming. Let me make sure next time I censor myself. But when I can just be open and freely say things, and then maybe she could have came back and said, well, you know, that is not what I would have told her. You know, I wouldn't have said that. I would have said, you know, baby, nobody knows the time and the day, and it could be 150 years. But to me, I told her, I said, well, that's a lie. You know, we ain't gonna lie to our kids like that. She's like, well, you don't know that's a lie. So it, you know, that's just a small example of, you know, kind of what's like you either have a safety blanket or you have to feel like you have to censor yourself, you know. But I'm guilty of doing it too. You know, there's times that she's spoken to me about stuff and I'll cut her off mid-sentence, like, well, why'd you say that? So, you know, I don't want to be hypocritical. So I have to practice what I preach.
All right. Okay. So you feel safe when you're able to say whatever you want to say, even if you're called out behind closed doors. Okay. Somebody also said here, Mr. DM said, when nothing I say or do is used against me, and when I have complete loyalty. That's so true. I mean, we all feel safe when we're sure that our truth or what we're saying is not coming to bite us. You know, when the person doesn't come to say, oh, you know, like what you said before, or okay, that is why you always do this, or I heard somebody said, somebody came home from school, she's a teacher, and so she relayed what happened between her and a student to her husband. And then her husband started lecturing her and say, you know, next time you don't tell that student so and so and so and so. That is not a kind of safe environment. You're not free to say whatever you want to say. But that doesn't also mean that we can say whatever we want to say, because we also have to know that the other person's got some triggers. We need to always be aware that other people have triggers. That's actually how you know the other person. When you know their triggers, things that, you know, when you say can trigger something from their past or something that they feared the most. And because of that, if you say something that triggers them, they're likely to have a response that is not, you know, something you like. I'm still talking about, you know, fear and feeling safe in a relationship. I also want you to know that the kind of fear that we have is not something that just came from nowhere, is as a result of past experiences and past words or past treatments by people that will bring into our new relationships. We need to know that sometimes when we react in a certain way, it's not the responsibility of other people to always dance around or tiptoe your weaknesses. It's on you. So how do you know you need to treat this? When you find yourself in a cycle, when somebody does something and you react in a particular kind of way, maybe you run away, you go and shut yourself somewhere, or you freeze there, you can't talk even though you're filming inside, or you start arguing, fearlessly, you're fighting, you're yelling. You want to know, why do I do this? So this is what I want to leave every one of us with. We need to know that the reason we do what we do is because that is our way to survive. It's a survival instinct. If you're always getting angry about something, there is something beyond that. There is something beneath the anger. There's something that is upsetting you. Instead of putting the responsibility on the other person to not say stuff like that again, or you shouldn't do stuff like that again, those kind of things, they used to hurt me, so you don't have to say. No, you need to go back and ask yourself, why does that hurt me? Why does that matter to me? Why do I have a need to always, make the other person align to my weaknesses and to my strength? What can I do differently to ensure that people don't walk on eggshells around me? And what can I do also, instead of freezing or fleeing or fighting? Is there any other way I can, address the issue, instead of just going by the same method? They said one of the definition of insanity is when you do something, consistently, and you're expecting a different result. It doesn't work that way. So I'm still going to throw some questions to people that have been talking. Please feel free. You want to say something, just let me see your hand, or you can type on the line. If you want to make a contribution, or you want to ask a question and you want to throw it open, please feel free to do it. It's supposed to be an interactive thing. This is an MMM conference. We are talking about mental health. We're talking about a relationship or marriage, and we're talking about, motivation. What will motivate you in a relationship? We're still coming to that part of being motivated to do stuff. Right now, I'm trying to link in mental health and relationship together. So please feel free to, to say something. It's an interactive session. So I'm going to throw another question to Jennifer. If there's a time where you really want something discussed and the other person is running away, do you think there's a better way to approach it so you get them to talk?
From what I've learned, if your partner is not in the mood to talk at that very moment, you have to allow them space and grace and hope that they will come back and talk about the issue in their own time. I learned that sometimes people, when they're angry, can say really, really vicious things. And the person that is, if they know that about themselves, it's probably better to allow them to cool off or to think about how they want to respond versus trying to force them. I know it may be in that moment painful for me because I want to talk and get it out, but I have to respect my partner's decision to stay silent at that time. But with them staying silent, they still have to be respectful. We still have to treat each other with courtesy. And we may not talk about the issue right then and there, but we still continue to we live together. That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, I do. I do. Okay, so you talked about the two parties, that if someone is angry, we should let the person go cool off first. I know that sometimes that's very hard to do, to pull the brakes. But
Yeah, it's very like isolating. It's too lonely. Like you want to talk about it when the person's not ready. So
I know. It's just that it's very counterproductive where you say, oh, we need to say it right now. I want to deal with this issue. Okay, at this juncture, I will just call in Tinuke. Do you want to kind of summarize what we've been saying since we started? Tinuke.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
So do you
I
just
think
want to paraphrase all the things we've been talking about?
Okay. Majorly because we'll be talking about relationships and our fears and how to really interact and be able to how will I put it now? Cope in certain situations, especially when we know that the partner sometimes we should just, I feel like the summary majorly is to understand ourselves and also understand our partner's temperament sometimes, especially given, for instance, when maybe when there is an argument and the other party doesn't want to speak at the moment, we shouldn't rush them. We should just we should let people deal with their feelings before we can interact. I think that's majorly the summary of everything.
Thank you so much. So we're still talking about, feeling safe and understanding ourselves and understanding the other party. What I really want to, hammer on is understanding the anger of the other person is not just anger. Anger is like a messenger of, the fears that we all feel inside of us. And we talked about the core fears. We talked about, the fear of abandonment, the fear of death, the fear of, loss of identity, the fear of, you see some men, they're talking and talking because they're afraid you want to override them and they don't want that to happen to them. And so because of that, they respond or react in such a way that is so very hurtful. It's not because they want to be hurtful, but they're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to lose my position here as the head of the home. And so I need to do something about it. Sometimes they don't say anything, they just walk away, or sometimes they just dismiss you because they are trying to hold on to the identity that they fear so much they're going to lose. And a lot of times you see women, running after you. You have to say something because there's also a fear of abandonment sometimes. I don't want to be left alone. I need to work on this relationship. And you need to say something. If you don't say something, I'm just going to lose it. And so I need to make you say something right now and here. We need to work on this relationship right now is because of the fear of abandonment. I want to summarize all this fear and put it in one tied up and knot it. It's called anxiety. There's something that is making us anxious. I like the way Bob Proctor said it. He said, whenever, okay, it's Carnegie that said, he said, any idea that we nurture or emphasize in our mind, anything that we've been thinking about, if you've been thinking, oh my God, my partner, doesn't like me, or my partner doesn't respect me, or you've been thinking, oh, my partner doesn't submit to me, or my partner doesn't care about me. And that has been an idea in your mind, but you've been nourishing it. Eventually, that idea will find an avenue to express itself. So what's going to happen is everything the other person is doing becomes an avenue or a material or a cloth to cover or give expression to the idea you already have in your mind. And so everything the other person does, you see it with the screen of the idea that you've conceived. Just like there was an idea of a plane or idea of a chair, idea of a car, and it came to pass by giving it, time, by nurturing it, by watering it. Any idea that comes into our mind, especially if it is born out of fear or even respect, because sometimes whenever an idea of, oh my God, the people at my my workplace, they're great, or oh, my wife is a wonderful person, oh, my daughter is so good, as long as that is in your mind and you're watering it, you will always see something good about that person. It also goes the other way. The moment an idea comes to your mind of, I don't like what this person is doing, you will never like what they're doing. You will always find a reason why what you think is right. So it's always good for us to, take a moment sometimes and think about what we think about that is causing us an anxiety. Because Bob Proctor said that kind of thought that causes you anxiety, when it is repressed, when it's not given an expression, it turns into depression. And so that means you cannot be productive. That relationship cannot be productive. And it affects you in every area of your life. It actually it produces a habit. If you're thinking in your mind that your spouse is cheating, sometimes it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, especially if that wasn't the case. But if you think someone is cheating, everything around you will point toward the fact that the person is cheating. If the person picks up a phone and the person moves away, yes, this person is cheating. If the person stays too long in the bathroom, that means the person is talking to somebody else. Why? Because you already have an idea in your head and it's being watered, it's being nurtured. Eventually, you begin to have a habit. And I always call it, because it makes you insecure, especially if you already have a past experience or a traumatic experience of abandonment. And so you begin to relate and react with that person or to that person based on the idea you conceived and is being watered. An opportunity for expression will begin to follow the idea that you've conceived in your mind. 60 to 70% or 60 to 70,000 thoughts run through our minds every day. We think 60 to 70,000 thoughts every day. 90% of those thoughts are negative. It takes intentionality to begin to brainwash ourselves and to plant positive thoughts. I always tell my clients, the moment you think about something, say the exact opposite out loud to combat what you're thinking, especially if it is negative. If it is positive, say it out with your mouth so that it can go on an assignment. It is so important we know that our relationships cannot go well if we don't take care of ourselves. Don't always point fingers. Don't think, oh, if this person can just do this, then this relationship will be well. If this person can just do this, if we take a step backward and we begin to examine how we think, especially if you're someone that is a bit negative, you always see the cup half full, half empty, more than you see it half full. It's difficult for you to see anything positive. I mean, I always tell people, just experiment. Just go somewhere and listen to what people say and listen to your contribution. See what you're saying in comparison to what every other person is saying. I heard a joke from Jim Rohn. He said two people were a husband and wife. They were both looking at the glass. And the husband was laughing and smiling. And the wife said, "Why are you smiling? Is it because the glass has not been washed?" The man said, "No, I wasn't seeing the dirty glass. I was seeing the flowers that are blooming outside." Some of us cannot see beyond what is happening. We only see what is happening now. We don't see the future. We don't see a possibility of having a better relationship. It may not be with a spouse, but be with a friend or a sister or a parent. You are not saying that this can be good. This will be better. We only see what is happening now and we react. And by so doing, we mess up using something, a method that is permanent to destroy a situation that is temporary. We need to know that we need to begin to work on ourselves much more than we work on relationships. Don't try, because if you want to work on your relationship, you'll want to place a demand on other people to do something. You can't change anybody except yourself. So you need to begin to think about how to make yourself better. And as long as you become better, the relationship will be better. I tell people, leave the relationship alone and begin to, examine yourself and just begin to do something better for yourself. Begin to be happy. Another thing I needed to know, nobody can make you happy. If you're waiting on anybody to make you happy, you are going to be unhappy for the rest of your life. You have to find joy, and then you bring the joy to relationships wherever you go. Stop. If not, you'll be blaming other people for what they're doing, what they're not doing, because you're expecting your joy and happiness to come from them. People will always be people. You have to find a way of finding your own fulfillment. You have to look for a way of being happy. You have to look for a way of fulfilling your destiny on earth, because that is the only time you can be happy. So I want to go to the last portion of this, and that is how to be motivated. A lot of people are not self-motivated in their lives, in their relationships. They're just there. A lot of people are stuck. Can anyone just tell us what are the things that you do as an individual to motivate yourself? What do you do to motivate yourself? Because when you're motivated, everybody around you is happy. We're all discussing. What do you do to motivate yourself? You can also say, well, right now I'm stuck. I'm also I'm looking for how to motivate myself. If that's who you are, let us know. And if you're so fired up and you're motivated, what are the things you're doing to motivate yourself? I'm waiting. Please unmute yourself if you're talking. What do you do to motivate yourself? I don't believe.
For me, most times I know it may just sound very weird. I try to listen to music and listen to some motivational speakers that can help me, especially in the situation I'm in.
Okay. Does it work?
Yes, it does.
All
It does
right.
actually. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Who else? What do you do to motivate yourself?
I do mirror talk a lot. I do self-talking.
You do a lot of self-talking?
I
Give us
bring
an
down
example of a self-talk.
I bring down the mirror, I sit down and I look at myself and I call myself by my name and I start talking and say, you're good. You don't have to be blue. You don't have to be angry or scream or shout. You don't always have to sing yourself and all that. And I just talk myself out of it. And so that's how and I tell myself, you can do this. You can get out of it and keep moving. It works a lot.
And it works.
Yeah.
So self-talking, listening to motivational talks. Who else?
For me, when it happened like that, I listen to music very well. Anytime I'm feeling something, I'm thinking negative, I carry my phone, put on the radio, listen to Chris, and I used to get out of that thought.
That's good. So you listen to a Christian channel and just get out of it.
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's those are things that they're very good. I'll just give you little things that some people wonder how I do what I do. The first thing is, one of the major reasons why we get stuck is lack of time management. Do you agree? If you don't start your day well, you've messed up the day already. If you don't have a routine as well, some days will be good and some days will be messed up. You can't control everything, but the things you can control, you need to take charge of them. And that helps you. Now, before we even talk about it, do we even have something we're pursuing before we even get motivated? What is it you want? Whenever I ask some people, what do they want in therapy? And they tell me things like, I have tried everything. I don't think this will work. And I'm wondering, why are you here? I have tried everything. This will not work. It won't work. So for those kind of people, they don't even have a vision. They don't have a goal that has been set. You need to first and foremost find a goal. What is it you want to motivate yourself to do? What is it you want to motivate yourself to getting or to having? That should always be the first go-to. What do I want? And if you've been joining our 5:30 Central Time, 11:30 West African Time prayer, you'll see I always encourage, write down your vision. Forget whether it's going to work or not. That is where you start from. What is it that you want so you get motivated to get it? So I tell people, keep writing it, put it on the wall and keep looking at it. Then have a small piece of paper or have a small journal. Write those things down every morning and every night. It's an idea you want to post on your mind so that the old faculty in you, every blood, every water, every marrow begin to work towards that goal. Then you will become motivated eventually, because as you're writing and as you're doing what other people have suggested, there's a self-talk. I can do this. I am this. And then you're listening to motivational, teachings. You're listening to good music. You will be able to achieve it. I always tell people also, you need to learn to sleep. You need to sleep. Give yourself 6 to 8 hours, not 10 hours. Give yourself that sleep. No matter what is going on, give yourself the sleep and try to sleep in a way that, your body knows when you sleep. Don't sleep at 10 today and sleep at 9 tomorrow and sleep at 1 a.m. next tomorrow. Why? Because you don't want to fall into depression You don't want to get anxious, because once you can take care of anxiety and depression, then the rest is history. Learn to have a routine. It will help you to be disciplined enough for whatever you're working on, your marriage, your relationship, your career, to work, because you have a routine. I also always encourage people, exercise. Exercising is not you're not exercising because you want to lose weight. You're exercising because you want to release the right hormones into your body. You want to get rid of stress hormones, cortisol. Exercise every day. It's so important that you exercise every day, whatever you can. You want to walk, you want to stretch, you want to do one thing or the other, so that as you're listening to your motivational talks and music, you are exercising. Let the fluid flow. Let the fluid flow. Let your brain receive some oxygen, and so you can be motivated. You need to wake up early. You need to exercise. You need to listen to motivation. I have not talked about what is happening to your partner. When you get yourself right, every other thing will begin to work right. I've seen this work with people who have problems with people at work. And finally, read. Reading is not just giving you information, it's also sensitizing your mind. You need to learn to read. I always encourage people, do 1 hour of reading or 30 minutes of reading at least every day. Find a time to do it. Go to a quiet place. You can either listen to Audible, which most of the time, half of it escapes. Reading is always very good. It helps you. And when you do this and you follow a routine, you know what you do at certain times of the day, and it becomes a habit. Anxiety and depression will carry the load and leave you. You're going to be less fearful, and you will be able to work on anything you're doing or any relationship that you have. Tinuke, take over. Questions?
Thank you so much, Reverend, for that. I really learned a lot, because I know sometimes I think everything summed up how I feel sometimes, and I know everyone feels that way. Anxiety sometimes is very common among everyone, and trying to achieve your goals, trying to I think for me, I think I was on that table. I hardly sleep. So I think I was sleeping more. But I would also start reading and doing better. So thank you so much for that, Reverend. Does anyone have any questions with what Reverend spoke about?
Even if it's not something I spoke about, if you just want to ask question generally.
I just want to say, Reverend, again, we thank you. I'm sure, speaking on behalf of everyone, that we really appreciate all you do and all the efforts you put into ensuring that our health and well-being, physically, mentally, and spiritually, is, we always have someone to go to with direction. I've taken a lot of your advice, especially now that I'm able to, because I've got off the road. I have a more stringent regimen, getting up. I'm sure you still get up at 3 a.m. and do your couple, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles. But, I get morning, I do my prayers. I give myself affirmations. I go to the gym. I transitioned to vegan about 2 months ago. And, I like to challenge myself in different areas of life. And so, 20, 30 years ago, I went to not eating pork and red meat, but now transitioning into a 100% vegan, that's a whole new challenge, because I love seafood. I love eggs, but
Wow.
You're capable of doing anything, you know, and it's everything is a mental, you know, it's about mental fortitude. You know, having the discipline and up and go to the gym even when you don't want to, it, you know, you feel so much better mentally and physically and spiritually. And it brings you to a higher level of consciousness that sometimes you might not have known you had until you press yourself. I just finished a 72-hour fast. You know, and my wife is like, you know, secretly, I know she admires a lot of the things I do, because she's like, you know, I didn't think, you know, you had that in you, you know, because, you know, like I said, we are still newlywed. So there's a lot of things about me that she didn't get to learn because we were always at work. So now that we're both off work and living together 24/7, you know, she sees that a lot of the areas of my life that I preach, I actually put it into practice. So, you know, I really feel good about that. And I always encourage people to try new things, you know, do something different, you know, shake it up a little bit, because, you know, they've always said all over the years, you know, psychologists and social scientists say that, you know, the definition of insanity is those that try to do the same things over and over and wish for different results or expect different results, you know. So if you're not getting the results that you want in your life, shake it up a little bit and try something different to see if you get a different result.
Mhm. Thank you so much, Paul. Any other person? All right, spirituality. You know, I can't wrap it up until I tell you that you're a spirit being. You are a spirit having a human experience. The Bible says, how can you start in the spirit and not end in the flesh? There is no shortcut to spirituality. I've been talking about the works of Jesus, and I said, the Bible says that greater works shall you do. And that is to say, we are without excuse. We need to key in to feeding our spirit man much more, and not just feeding it, but doing the works of faith. There's a difference between a living faith and a dead faith. A dead faith is a faith that doesn't have works backing it up. I want to lose weight, and all you do is eat. You can't lose weight that way. It's not possible. Faith without works is dead. So let's add some works to whatever faith. The Bible says faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things that we do not see. So if you tell me you have faith, you're believing God for something, I want to see a proof. I may not know what exactly you're looking for, but I should be able to guess by the things that you do, the hard work. You want to prosper, but you just report to work, but you don't work. You can never prosper that way. Unfortunately, people don't see what you do, but the one that promotes one and brings another down is watching over you. The day I got to hear that the people who walk 8 hours are those that are just walking for survival. The people you see that really make it in life are those who put in 12 to 14 hours every day. And I don't want you to delude yourself by adding the time you're gisting and the time you're on social media. Don't add it to when you are working. I want all of us to go back tomorrow and actually sit ourselves down and ask, do I even put in the 8 hours, the barest minimum you're supposed to put into work? Do you even put in those hours? Now, they don't mean that they walk for those hours. Part of the hours, they're working on themselves. Most of the millionaires we have today, they read 2 to 4 hours every day. How many hours do you put into working on yourself? I begin my day every day, 3:30, 4 every day. I am not walking immediately. I start by walking on myself. I go on the treadmill, I run 3 miles. I listen to motivationals. I study 10 to 20 chapters of the Bible every morning. If you're not doing that, don't say life is unfair. Don't say honestly things are going bad. You have to do something to get something. I like the way Jim Rohn put it. He says, the Bible says, whatsoever a man soweth, that is what he's going to reap. He said, but I like to put it this way. Whatever you're reaping is what you have sown. There's no need running around when you're not really working. What are you doing with your time? Spiritually, physically, mentally, what are you doing with your time? Don't be deceived. The Bible says God is not mocked. Don't be deceived. You can deceive yourself, but the Bible says that the spirit of a man is a candle of the Lord. God is checking you out. I sit down, I start my job every day at 6:15. Every day, I've already had counseling this morning, and I'm still going to have another session after we're done. Every day, 6:15. The moment I started, having a routine and waking up early and praying, God began to open doors for me. And God will open doors for you when you're ready to commit. Lessen the time that you're talking and gisting with people. Lessen the time you're on screen. I don't remember when last I watched the television. Sometimes you have to turn those things off for a season. Sometimes you have to check out of social media for a season and stay on the word, stay on books, and stay, putting stuff inside of you that will make your life meaningful. I can't tell you what God has done in my life in the past 6 months. I am not the same person. By reason of getting my priorities right and doing the work and talking less and just doing the work, putting in, investing in myself, listening to people that have gone ahead of me. I am indeed more independent. I'm indeed happier than ever. And you can be happy too if you're ready to put in the work. We'll be doing this every month. It's going to be MMM seminar. It's going to change once it's time savings. We're going to just adjust the time to 2 p.m. Central Time so that it can still be 9 p.m. West African time. Over to you, Tinuke. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Mom, for this very impactful seminar. Thank you very much. I'm very sure everyone on the call today will know that they've gotten something from what you've said, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to work on everything you've said to live a happier life. If you have any questions or input, can you just unmute yourself and... Hello?
Hello?
Okay, so without any questions or inputs, would have to end the meeting. Thank you so much. Like Reverend said, we'll be holding this monthly, and we'll be posting the links and sending the details when it's time. Thank you very much for joining today.
Please
God bless you.
Please send questions ahead of time. If you want us to pick a topic that you want us to really, deliberate on, please send those to info@justflaky.net. info@justflaky.net. Please send those questions in, and so we'll be able to deal with it. We're also asking that you please extend the invitation to people around you so we can make this discussion bigger, and so that we can also benefit from other people that are coming in while they benefit from us. If you've not yet downloaded our app, please do. Just Flaky app, JUSTFLAKY. We have different stuff there. We have information there, and this meeting will also be uploaded on that app. Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Bye.
We will see you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Yeah.
Thank
But I need to
you.
talk to
Thank
you.
you for the time, your time and everything. We appreciate.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Someone said she needed to talk to you. I think I heard I need to talk to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who needs to talk to me? Let me see.
It's Funke.
Okay.
All right. Is it
I want
after the
to.
meeting or now?
Can I say it now?
Okay.
Can I say it now?
Yes, you can.
Can I say it in Yoruba?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
So today, Timo White Adele, ọkọ mi ra ẹja. So mi ò mọ quantity oye ẹja tó rà. So mo wá ṣe ọbẹ̀ yẹn. But torí pé àwọn ẹja yẹn soft, mo wá láti fi ẹyọ kan sí. Torí pé ìní dẹ̀ ló máa ń serve wọn. Ìní wá lọ serve wọn. Mi wá mọ̀ pé ìní ò fẹ́ já sí. So maybe ó wá bi àwọn ìní pé ẹja wo pé wọn ò fóun lẹ́ja. Ìní wá ní pé ẹja yẹn wà níbi tí a kò sí. So wọ́n wá rán ìní wá bá mi pé ẹja yẹn pé ta ló jẹ ẹja. Mo rò pé wọ́n wá padà lọ síbẹ̀. Wọ́n wá ní ẹja yẹn dì kan. The reason wọ́n máa sọ pé ta ló mẹ́ja. Wọ́n wá ní kí ìní lọ bí mi pa ta ló mẹ́ja. Wọ́n ní ẹja wà ń bẹ̀. Anjọlá náà tún wá again. Wọ́n ní ṣé mẹ́ja. Mo ní èmi ò ka iye ẹja tó wà ń bẹ̀, ẹja wà ń bẹ̀. So bó ṣe wá bá mi ní pé ẹja kò pé. Mo wá ní ó wà ń bẹ̀. I put only one for you pé ó máa fi jẹun. So the lady wá ní the negative someone say I say something is on your head, you don't have anything in your head. And I say I reject it, I have something on my head.